Emerson, retired Navy SEAL, and I'm on a mission. Coffee is probably top of the gear list when you're going to do a road trip. I'm traveling the country to train with the most badass men in America to learn their secrets.
I won a national title when I was 13 years old. 13. I was the champion of the UK. Be careful what you wish for.
Like me, these men have spent a lifetime training to be dangerous, and now I get to learn what they've got.
You don't know who this guy is. Your black belt doesn't compare to his freaking moxie, his will to burn you down.
I think that guy not only can kick your ass, but I think he probably could write poetry.
Good morning, all. I have traveled all the way from Georgia to California to meet with one dude. He's the CEO of a major corporation, he's an author, and he's truly a rags to riches story, traveling all the way from Armenia with absolutely nothing and making a life for himself. And so I wanted to tap into some of the knowledge that he has to figure out how to succeed well in life and in business. He's really got some good wisdom. So guys, you're gonna love him. And let's go meet him. Here we go. All right, hey folks, welcome back. I'm joined with a new friend, Bedros. Bedros, say hello to my folks.
Hello, folks. Hello, John.
Man, you really nailed that. I felt like I was in the zone. I gave a great intro, and then your enthusiasm even kind of...
We went from 9 to a 10.
It's fantastic, man.
You did it.
I want to know your story because I guarantee you there's so many folks out there that could benefit from it as well. You were an Armenian refugee.
Yes, sir.
You came here with absolutely nothing, had a whole bunch of stuff going against you. You could have very easily subscribed to a victim mentality, as so many folks are just doing. Sidebar. But man, you went out and you earned and you changed your stars. Can you walk us through some tips?
Absolutely, yeah. So my dad was a member of the Communist Party in the Soviet Union. Armenia was part of the Soviet Union. And interestingly enough, you're a man of history, so you know this. In the late 70s, 80s, the Soviet army was fighting the Afghanistan, right? Well, the Afghanis there. And my brother, who's 14 years older than me, the next year, in 1981, was about to go into the Soviet army and was going to get deployed. Now, of course, Armenia being occupied by the Soviet Union, my dad saying, look, we want nothing to do with the Soviet Union, let alone go fight their battle somewhere. I'm not going to have my son get taken and blown up for a cause we don't believe in. And on top of that, my dad was the absolute American man. He would wear Jordache jeans, Ray-Ban sunglasses, Nike shoes. And you're not buying that in Armenia. Like, he's finding that on the black market.
So this is while he's part of the Communist Party.
Yeah.
He's rocking our culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and he would listen to Elvis and Beach Boys. This is all obviously secretly, right?
It's all very capitalistic. It just seems duplicitous.
Yeah. So I believe that man was born, he was meant to be born here, and he was born in the wrong country, became a member of the Communist Party. Yes, by choice, but if he had said no, you're off to Siberia. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and so he was doing some side hustle. I guess today it would be considered a side. He had a side hustle where he was making men's suits. He was a tailor, and he would steal enough material that was supposed to be waste anyway. He would put dude, he was so clever. He would put the patterns of suit jackets and vests so close together on the given amount of material that for every 8 suits that he would make, he'd have enough material left to make a pair of pants.
Yeah.
Right? And so he would take that home and he'd make a pair of pants and he'd sell it to someone on the black market. And he raised 25,000 rubles and he bribed someone in the Soviet consulate to allow us to escape into Italy.
Wow.
And from Italy I was 6 years old at the time. We went to the American consulate. My dad said, I'm a political refugee. I denounce communism and I want to enter the United States.
Wow.
My dad makes me say, and I proudly say this, that we entered the United States legally 10 days after escaping into Italy.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. That man's my hero, dude. He's just
Yeah, and
amazing.
he was moonlighting as a capitalist to be able to
Yes, sir.
escape it all.
Yeah.
And so a lot of folks I've found, immigrants, come to the United States, and the most pro-America folks I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, sir.
A lot of folks coming out of our universities who have never really been outside of the country or seen just how fallen a lot of the other systems are, both in the legislature or the judiciary in different countries. It's like justice has turned back, it's gone.
Yeah.
So showing you showed up in the land of opportunity and America and kind of craft your early days in America starting out.
Well, it wasn't as cool as my dad had made it out to be. As you can imagine, as a 6-year-old, I was like, hey, what's going on? Like all the adults, like my brother was 19, my sister was 22, I was 6. And so I do remember asking my dad a lot of questions, and they were fear-based questions. Where are we going? How long are we going to be gone? I miss my friends.
Sure.
And I said, we're going to a new place. You're going to learn a new language. You're going to have lots of freedom, lots of opportunity. You're going to have things you've never had. You're going to have experiences you've never had because we are constantly oppressed. Right. And so as we're going through that, we get here the first month, we're living in some dude's, and he was a kind man. My dad had one friend who had already come here. He had a 2-bedroom apartment. So us, a family of 5, were living for 30 days in his one of that spare bedroom. And he said, look, you guys have 30 days and then you have to leave. And so by day 2, my dad had a paper route. By day 3, he had a paper route and was pumping gas. My brother was working at a pizzeria, et cetera. Everyone got a job to make ends meet because we had 30 days in this man's house. And we did all our paperwork. We moved into Section 8 housing, which is government-assisted housing in gang-infested Santa Ana, not too far from here, about 40 minutes from here. And man, I didn't speak English. I didn't understand the culture. My mom put me in school, kindergarten, and I kept running away from school. And the kids were being harsh with me. They were being bullies. And when you stand out, you have a funny haircut, your mom made your clothes, and you don't speak the language. And by the way, I didn't know how to say I have to go pee, and so I peed myself on first day of school. You get made fun of, and so I kept running. So all this to say that a lot of adversity was stacked, and I'm like, man, my dad was an absolute liar. He said we're going to come to this awesome place, things are going to be great, and the only awesome thing was the grocery stores had food in them to sell.
Amazing, right?
This doesn't happen. You know, the only time folks have probably seen that now is we've gone through COVID, when they walk into grocery stores and there's no cleaning supplies and toilet paper and water. Imagine that on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
And you wait in line for butter, for cheese, and I mean hours, not like 10 minutes like in a movie theater. You're waiting in line for butter, cheese, bread. And people who will have money and bribe, they can cut into line and get that last loaf of bread, and too bad for you, my friend. That's communism, that's socialism, ironically where everyone's trying to go today. And so, thankfully, my dad said, hey, you're going to do 2 things. You're going to lose the accent, and you're going to serve this country, and you're going to serve the people here, and the more you serve, the better opportunities you will have. And foolishly, I believe that. I do believe ignorance is bliss many times, and I love my dad, and he said, lose your accent and become American. We could have moved to Glendale, where all the Armenians are. Like, that's like little Armenia here. Right. He kept us in Santa Ana, where we were the only Armenians, and he forced us to learn the language, lose the accent, and work and serve the people. And, I am the American dream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, you are, because now you are the CEO and founder of Fit Body Bootcamp.
Yes, sir.
You have a supplement company called True Lean, and you're also an author, Man Up, which we'll talk some about this as we proceed. And so, starting from those roots, you had every excuse to not go far and blame your origins. Yet, man, you've covered some some ground, brother. How'd you get from there to where you are now? What really drove that needle?
So, part of it is I had this chip on my shoulder, rage in my eyes, fire in my belly. That's the only way I could describe it. And even before coming to the United States, I faced a lot of personal adversity. I can talk about it now. 6 years ago, I worked with a therapist after having an emotional meltdown. John, I had a panic attack. I've never had one. I felt stressed. When you work, when you do things, you run companies, you feel stress.
I've had a couple.
You've had
terrible.
Literally, in fact,
couldn't breathe, sat up. My wife thought I was dying because I said, I think I'm dying. I've had them. It's terrible. I've had a couple of them. Terrible.
The first chapter of the book is titled "The Morning of My Heart Attack" because I thought, John, I'm 37 years old and I'm having a heart attack. Yeah. And well, of course, we went to the doctor the next day. I told my wife, I thought, hey, I cheated death. She goes, what do you mean? I go, yesterday, I think I had a heart attack. She, you idiot, why don't you go to the doctor?
Because we're dudes, we're just dumb.
Because we don't, right. Exactly. So she drags me along, and the doctor's like, look, man, your heart's great, everything's fine, you seem stressed. And before I can answer, she's like, yes, he is. And so the thing there was that I needed to overcome that overwhelm. But even then, even as a child, I had adversity stacked against me. And I realize now adversity is such a massive advantage, and I would never want this to happen to anyone. But I went to a therapist to deal with my anxiety attack that I had 7 years ago now. In 4 sessions, he helped me deal with my anxieties. And I'll share those hacks for your audience to learn. And they're great tools to have on your tool belt and to deploy them when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, white knuckling, you're suffering in silence. But between the ages of 4 and 6, I was molested by 2 older boys consistently in Armenia. And in 4 sessions, this therapist helps me overcome my anxieties. But as I was leaving at the end of the 4th session, he goes, Bedros, is there anything else we need to talk about? And I said, Kevin, there isn't. He goes, what about your family? I'm like, look, man, I come from a communist family. My dad's a little heavy-handed. He would beat me here and there, but that's just how we do things, you know. Yeah. Quite honestly, as a kid growing up here, I couldn't understand why you would get put on restriction. I'm like, hey, John, can you come out and play? You're like, no, I'm on restriction for a week. I'm like, what the heck is restriction? Yeah. I'm like, and I remember telling a friend, can't your parents just beat you and slap you around and then you can come out and play again? And they were like, whoa, that's not supposed to happen. So I'm telling this to Kevin, and he's laughing. He goes, all right, fair enough. I go, and then for some reason in those 4 sessions, man, I had built such trust with that old man, with Kevin Downing, my therapist, that I just forfeited this information. I go, plus what happened to me in Armenia as a kid was much worse than the beatings my dad gave me.
Yeah.
And he goes, what happened? And dude, I broke down standing at the doorway of his office crying, and I couldn't even articulate the words. He says, were you abused? And I just shook my head, yes. And were you molested? Yes. Male or female? You know, he said male. I shook my head. I couldn't talk. I was looking out a 2nd-story window building that he's in, looking at my truck, wanting to leave, but knowing I need to stay, I need to work through this. Like, this is the cause of everything for me, this massive thing, this adversity. So I know we're taking a detour here from your question, but I think it's important for your audience to know that 1 out of every 4 people have been physically, sexually, emotionally abused. And when people go, man, Bedros, I'm so sorry about what happened to you. I've only been beaten. Or I'm so sorry what happened to you. I've only been mentally abused. Don't be sorry for me, because the same part of our brain, the fight or flight system, lights up like a Christmas tree, whether you've been physically, mentally, emotionally abused or sexually abused. Yeah. And so if 1 out of 4 people have gone through that traumatic event you carry with you and becomes the filters in which you see the world as bad, evil, in my case, can't trust men.
Yeah.
And so that adversity helped me get stronger over the years. Going through the adversity of being bullied and learning to self-soothe. I don't have friends, I have to learn to self-soothe. Moving around so much. I went to 3 different elementary schools, 2 junior highs, 2 high schools. I hated that, man. I just wanted to make friends. John, you want to be friends? Let's build a sandcastle. And then poof, I'm gone. But I learned how to build rapport quickly, right, because I didn't know how long I was going to be around. And all these skill sets, adversity, building my ability to become resilient, being able to self-soothe when there's a problem, being able to build rapport and connect with people quickly, because I don't know how long we're going to be friends before we get evicted from our apartment.
Sure.
Those are the skill sets I use today to grow my organizations, to serve humanity, and I'm grateful for that adversity. So what helped me get there was the adversity. No one should go out there and voluntarily get molested. No one should go out there and go through the tragedy, but we all should put ourselves through hardship, adversity, and suffering that's structured to meet our true selves.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you also dealt with not only the adversity, but kind of facing your demons, being real and vulnerable, kind of about past stuff, and so that was really important too. And you also said something pretty goofy, that it created some type of rage, some type of anger in you as well, and kind of that made some cocktail for you moving forward. How would you crystallize some of this into kind of lessons for somebody out there that didn't have your past? It's kind of like, well, great, you had horrible adversity, and it lit up your brain, but
it's simple. It's you got to have a very deep and meaningful reason why. And when I watch your channel, I'm part of the Warrior Poet Society. I'm a paying member, and you always talk about you've got to have something to die for. You got to be there's something to die for. Like there's got to be a cause, a belief that you're willing to die for, but there must be something that you want so bad and to live for.
That's great.
And that's the want. And I don't believe that it's wrong for wanting to be successful out of proving the world wrong. That I have ADD and OCD, that I'm an immigrant and a foreigner and dropped out of college in 32 days and never graduated, so I'm not supposed to be anybody, that I was born blue collar, beyond blue collar. And so I want my success to be my revenge. So I have a rage in my eyes, fire in my belly, and a chip on my shoulder. That's my reason why. Someone else's reason why might be, I want to save the world, and I'm so focused on saving the puppies. Cool, that's great too. But my reason why is because I need to prove the world wrong, and I want success to be my best revenge, and I use it for good. That's the only difference. I'm not a mean a-hole.
Right.
And so if you have a strong reason why, a compelling reason why, when things are tough, when the poop hits the fan, you will drive through. If you don't have a strong reason why, you will come up with an excuse. And I've abolished all of my excuses.
Got it. So right there, it's a passion that you've just kind of got. What if somebody, they're watching, they're in debt, they're unhappy with where their station is in life, whether it's vocation or their marriage or whatever. Sure. They really want to change. They don't really have that gut passion. Is there any hope for them other than you need motivation and passion, then get it. And he's like, but I don't have it. I'm like, but get it. Is there a way that we can kind of break out of that? All right, folks, if you want to hear Bedros answer that, you're going to have to tune in for our second part. Bedros is going to get way into the weeds on some practical rubber meets the road advice on how you can win in life and specifically in business. I took away some hardcore concrete things from what you will learn in part 2, so make sure you check that out. For all you haters who are like, you're just trying to get twice the views by breaking it up. And I'm like, yeah, that's also true. So don't hate the player, hate the game, right? No, but some of y'all just like unsubscribe. I'm like, hey, come on, man. I didn't choose the thug life. The thug life chose me, so. Wow, this outro really tanked. I say we roll it anyway. Guys, part 2. See ya.